Welcome to the Humanity Leadership Podcast. My name is David Wheatley. We're here to talk leadership in small, bite-sized and practical chunks. Enjoy. This is work from our first Friday session, and it's the compressed content of last Friday's conversation was a chat between me and Bill Doherty, who's one of the founders of Braver Angels. And Mimi will introduce what Braver Angels is about and a little bit about Bill. And then we go from that into the Q&A that happened afterwards. So you'll hear me and Bill having a chat and then some questions from the group that attended last Friday. I hope you continue to find value.
Today, we have David Wheatley. He is the co-founder of Humanity 24 years ago. He's also our chief question asker. He's originally from Leeds, England, and he's now in Kalamazoo, Michigan. He's co-authored 2 books, What Great Teams Do Great and 50 Do's for Everyday Leadership. Joining David today, we have Bill Doherty. Bill is the professor emeritus in the Department of Family and Social Sciences at the University of Minnesota, where he taught marriage and family therapy for 38 years. Following the 2016 US presidential election, Bill co-founded Braver Angels, which is a citizens initiative bringing conservatives and liberals together to counteract political polarization and restore the fraying social fabric in American society. Braver Angels now has volunteers spread across all 50 states. And among Bill's awards is the Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Family Therapy Academy. So, David, Bill, I'm going to stop my screen share now and let you two take it away.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And in particular, thank you, Bill. This is the first time we've done a First Friday with a guest. Usually it's humanity content, but we appreciate Bill coming along and talking with us today. And I don't know what it is that brought this about. It just feels like there's something about this time of year that it's important that we think about and are able to have more civil discourse. We'll maybe explore that later. It seems to resonate. So, Bill, thank you. And I wonder if you can start us off with just sharing what's the problem that Braver exists or was created to address?
Yeah, well, let me just say I'm grateful to be part of this. I'm honored to be your first ever guest. I hope it's not the last time you say no. We that one bombed. So anyway, the problem that Braver Angels was created to address is polarization, particularly what's called affective polarization, or how we feel about each other. That we're divided not only on issues, we're divided about how we feel about each other. So that somebody who differs from me, who's going to vote differently from me, we tend to see that person as a stranger who we don't understand, as somebody we don't like, and also as somebody maybe who is morally compromised. Those are the 3 categories of polarization. And these folks we work with, these are in our families, these are old friends. So it's really divided American people personally, and that's what we're here to address.
It feels like that's fairly recent. What's caused us to get here?
Well, that's the big question, of course. It's been rising. This polarization has been rising probably for 35 or 40 years, according to the political scientists. We've always been, we've always had different opinions, but this sort of animosity we feel, fed by lots of factors, probably, some of them economic, an economic divide. Social media has been what's called an accelerant of this. We have completely different news sources now. There's been a decline in social trust, precipitous decline since the 1970s. We don't trust our neighbors. We don't trust institutions. So lots of money in politics, lots of factors have gone into this sort of perfect storm, not only here, but also around the world.
So all of those things happen. 2016 comes and you say, hey, I know what. Let's start Braver Angels. So tell us a little bit about that, the reason why there and what your aim is.
Well, people probably remember that election, which was shocker to both those who won and those who lost. And the country was so divided at that point that two colleagues of mine, David Blankenhorn in New York City, David Lapp in Southwest Ohio, they were on the phone together. We had all worked on family issues before. They were talking about how people were feeling in Manhattan. The world was ending. And in Southwest Ohio, there was a morning in America. And they decided on the spur of the moment to get 10 Hillary Clinton voters and 10 Donald Trump voters together for 13 hours over a weekend in South Lebanon, Ohio in early December. And called me, and I said, "Good luck, hope you have a good time." And I asked what they were thinking of doing with them, and they weren't so sure about that part, but they were hoping I could figure that out. And I went, okay. So we just sort of took a plunge. It was a very powerful experience of people connecting beyond the stereotypes. And we thought it would be a one-time thing. Ask me what I did in, December 2016 and pour me another Chardonnay. But that group didn't want to stop. We had a reunion and we just decided to keep going. That's how we got going.
So, what is it? What is Braver Angels, and how is it tackling this polarization?
Well, we have a number of experiences, workshops that we've done several thousand of these now for people to come together with those who differ, to understand each other beyond stereotypes, find common ground. We have skills workshops where we teach people the skills for communicating across political ideological differences. We have a debate, Braver Angels debate program, a different kind of debate. Increasingly in recent years, we've been asked to do workshops for elected officials at the local level, state level, and even a little bit in Congress. So, and then recently we have assembled a couple hundred partner organizations. These are businesses, nonprofits, and others who are interested in working on this problem. So we're trying to catalyze a kind of a movement to counteract the polarization. We're a membership organization, 12,000 members, nonprofit, national in scope.
So Humanity is one of those organizations, and Mimi brought you to us and said, I think we should sign up for this. And we tried to sign up, and he said, no, you're too liberal. Unless you come across with a more right-wing company as well, then we're trying to keep balance, which I thought was a great challenge to us. What's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, the thinking behind that right from the beginning is that the leadership of Braver Angels has to be half red, half blue, we call it, half conservative, half liberal. And of course, there are some folks who are neither, but by and large, it has to be balanced. One of the challenges, David, when you're in the space of conflict resolution, intergroup relations, liberals or blues tend to gravitate towards that. And so then when you end up with an organization that's trying to bring conservatives and liberals together, and it's all liberals in leadership, and then everything sounds blue, okay? And so that was a crucial decision at the beginning, that at the board level, the leadership group, state coordinators, it's balanced in terms of liberals, conservatives, and others.
So that's the reason that spurred it on, what you've put together. How can what are some of those tools that you're applying that will help us either disagree better or at least see people as the people that they are rather than the stereotypes we're making them out to be?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. One is in engaging in conversation with the political other, don't try to change the other person's mind. So give up the idea that if somebody has strong political views, like who they're going to vote for this time, right? Give up the idea that you're so enlightened, that I'm so enlightened, and I have the great argument, or I see the weakness in your argument, that in this conversation, you're going to change your mind on something important. You abandon that. Instead, aim to understand the other person, to listen in a way that they feel heard, and then to speak in a way that they may hear you. I mean, that's at a broad level. It's those basic communication skills that we know in other areas of life, but tend to give ourselves a pass when it comes to political conversations.
Which is one of the things that drew us to you, because that, for those that are familiar with humanities work, that's very green path in thinking. Listen to understand, align and learn helps us build higher performance teams. So we've got a particular emotional situation coming up in 4 weeks. What's some real grounding 1 or 2 tips that people can be taken away that say, I hear you say, listen, and on November the 6th, I might be mad. And it could be either side, like you said, I might be mad
Yeah.
about this. What would you advise for them?
I would advise people to neither be triumphalistic around people who have lost, nor vengeful if you are the side that lost. And we actually have a little pledge that we have developed that we've used for help for sort of an aspiration on this. So I'll read it to you, just a couple sentences. Regardless of how the election turns out, I will not hold hate, disdain, or ridicule for those who voted differently from me. Whether I am pleased or upset about the outcome, I will seek to understand the concerns and aspirations of those who voted differently and look for opportunities to work with people with whom I disagree.
I bet you there's a bunch of people who have tried to write that down and are saying, oh, where can I go and find that?
I'll send it to you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
but basically it's, it's what attitude do I want to bring to those who voted differently, and how do we move forward? How do we move forward together? We're a divided country, and accepting that, and that divisions are not going to go away tomorrow, and neither side is likely to totally triumph. And so what happens is each side, when they lose, they just are determined to have the other side not succeed. And then 2 or 4 years later, it just reverses. So we have to figure out a way to accept the fact that we disagree and find a way forward as people.
And there's a British politician coined the phrase, we have more in common than divides, which kind of builds on that we're getting angry about a small piece of the stuff that we disagree on, but we still have an awful lot of things in common.
Yes, absolutely. Most people wake up in the morning hoping our children are healthy and well educated, that people have access to health care, that we have safe communities. Most people on a topic like immigration welcome immigration and want it regulated. We have a lot in common at the level of values and aspirations. That was one of the things I learned early on in Braver Angels, that I was confusing policy differences with core values differences. And if I think that your policy is going to harm children, and then I think that that's your goal, David, right? Then we occupy a different moral universe. How do we even talk then? As opposed to the assumption, unless proven otherwise, that we want people in this country to flourish, and we differ on how to get there.
So if we start with that, let's start with where we're in common, and that at the core of what people are really trying to say, we listen to understand them, and we're open to that understanding, and we're looking at how we can move forward to a place where we can build on those commonalities and get the major differences, that sense of I've learned to hate you, out of the way. That's what you see as progress moving forward.
Yes, and this requires a kind of discipline. This is hard to do because there's like a viral load of polarization, of disdain, and we have good intentions, and that's why we need to develop attitudes and skills for this work, because if it's just an aspirational goal, then tomorrow when I read a headline or I see somebody or on the news or I have a relative who comes on strong, it all goes away.
And I mentioned the green path, and folks that aren't familiar with it can pop to humanity.com, and in the tools section you can see the green path, red path. But it's interesting that you're describing some of our red path behaviors, which are the ones that we're saying, hey, don't do these, which is attack, avoid, ignore, blame, excuses, whining. All of those things are things that will continue to maintain that challenge. And what you're flipping to is listen, understand, build on commonalities, and move forward, which will allow us to work well together.
Yes, and I'd like to add that the discipline of how we talk with one another, how we talk with those we agree with. So one of our workshops is called Depolarizing Ourselves, Depolarizing Within. because it occurred to me one day that a lot of the nastiest, most hostile conversations about the political other are not with the political other, they're with the people who are smart like me, where we trash and bash. We talk about the four horsemen of polarization: stereotyping, dismissing, ridiculing, and contempt for millions of people. A lot of that happens as like-minded people get together and trash the other side. And so, so the pledge is not just how I talk to you if we're different, but how I talk to my like-minded people about you.
Right. I really appreciate that, Bill. And so where can people find out more about Braver Angels?
You can Google Braver Angels. By the way, we started out as Better Angels from the Lincoln phrase, the better angels of our nature. And then somebody sued us because they owned the trademark. And so that's the world we live in. And so we shifted to Braver Angels, which we really like. And the only Google listing for Braver Angels is us, as opposed to Better Angels. So Google.
I even think that
Braver Angels.
switch is interesting, is it? Because it pushes us to be more courageous, which means
That's right.
stepping out a little bit to take some risk, because it's really comfortable to fall into talking with people who agree with us.
Yes.
So that was the Humanity Leadership Podcast. My name's David Wheatley. For further information about Humanity, go to humanity.com or check out our latest book, What Great Teams Do Great, from all good bookstores. Have a good one. Stay healthy.